Okay, my water heater installed yesterday, January 19th, and I want to go over some of the steps because I believe I can probably do this myself next time. Looking at the where you turn the gas off outside, I want to show you how to turn the gas off and on. This little plug right here, if it's at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, which it is right now, that is on. You turn it a quarter turn, 90 degrees, and that'll turn it off. So 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and that'll turn that off. So now let's go inside and I'm going to review the water heater installation. It cost me $1,650 to get this thing installed. And there it is. Kid did a pretty good job. So I'm going to review basically some of the things I observed, because again, I'm pretty convinced I can do this myself. Basically just need to learn how to solder copper together. Starting at the top here, this is the vent. They did not change this out. I was actually told a few years ago that that I would need a 4-inch exhaust pipe here, and that would cost me, well, you know, including installation of the new water heater plus having to cut a hole in the ceiling to make the width 4 inches. $4,000 is what the guy was estimating. So that guy was ripping me off, obviously. We'll go back to, I think it's Applewood Plumbing. We'll no longer use them. Yeah, and so they kept the 3-inch exhaust pipe here, and essentially they just replaced this cap right here. So this was all mine, and they just screwed the cap. They just pop this out right here. You see these little holes. You just pop this out and pop in a new one, and then screw it back in so they nice snug fit. This water heater is, to me, a little more simple than the one I had before. You notice there's two exit pipes here, and they both go to the this basically, you know, they go that direction, which I believe goes to my washer, and also goes straight down and probably used for my shower. My guess would be this appears to be the main water line back here. You can see here's the water shut off right here. It's currently on, and this all this piping leads below the house in my crawl space. So essentially, he did not have to solder or anything. This is just pressurized. You would just remove these two right here, and then you have, it looks like he used a liquid sealant. I've seen, you know, people use a wrap, kind of like a white tape wrap, but I would probably want to use this white. You can kind of see there's this white film that basically is used as kind of a sealant between the connector here and the copper tubing. So there's really only two connectors to the water for everything in my house. For the washer, so all the hot water in my house is for the washer, the sink, and my sink in the bathroom, and the shower. So basically I have 4 different needs for hot water, and it's all taken care of right here with this setup. So again, I would just have to make sure that when I reconnect with a new water heater, you know, like 10 years from now, that this is sealed, but there's going to be no need to solder or weld together any copper on the top, and just replace this thing. Going down here, this is essentially, you know, the gas, where you connect the gas. This is the gas line that runs underneath my house. He did replace this. He went underneath the house, and first he turned off the gas, obviously. Now this means the gas is in the on position. You turn a quarter turn, it's in the off position. But essentially he replaced this. I don't know exactly why he replaced it, but he ran a new line up through the flooring, and then this was part of the unit that came with the unit. That essentially this is, again, just a sealant type situation where you use a tape or a glue to connect the gas to the water heater here. This doesn't look real difficult to me. I think I would leave this in place. And then you have the box here. This is just basically to turn the water up or down, temperature. This is the autopilot, so you do not have to light to turn the gas on. There's no pilot light. There is a pilot light, but essentially what I would do is you hold down with the one hand on this button, push down on it, and then hit the autopilot switch, and then if it turns on, if it's successful, this little flash indicator, this green will flash green if the autopilot turned on. So if it ever turns off, simple process of pushing in on this, hitting that, waiting for the green light to flash. This, I believe, right here somehow draws, because you need electricity, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but this is part of the, this is obviously part of the, this is the grounding wire, and these two wires, I believe, is what works the auto start. The only question is, does this require any electricity? Because you got a flashing green light here. I'm wondering how it draws electricity, if it does at all. It's all self-contained. He did not hook up to any electrical outlet here. So I don't know if that flashing green light is the power generated to do that is through some sort of mechanism they created in here to, they take the, when the gas heats, it somehow stores electricity to flash to indicate this is working, or is it just got some 10-year battery in there that basically for the next 10-20 years they got a battery that will make that flash work. Anyway, it all comes this way. There's nothing I need to do there to that. This is where you drain the water. They recommend draining, it's kind of warm because of the warm water. They recommend draining the water once a year. Just a standard hose, and you would turn this, I believe, 90 degrees or quarter turn, and that would exit the water through the hose, and then you would obviously turn that off first, turn off the water, pull the lever to stop the water, then drain it, and then turn the water back on to fill it back up. Now while you're doing that, to release air, it's going to be air that will build up, and apparently you need to release the air as you do that. I believe this is the switch right here you would use. You would flip this and it would allow air to escape through that pipe, which this pipe runs outside the house to the outside. If you go around the side there, you'll see an exit pipe that would help as you're filling it back up. This valve essentially will help release the air as you're filling it back up. This is going to be the tricky part. I could probably keep this, honestly. Hopefully if I did replace this, I wouldn't have to redo this. This essentially is a leak valve. So if I was having any problems, if there was problems with this water heater, this is where the water would escape. They say most what it would do would be a drip. You notice it is up higher on the water heater, so if the water heater somehow overfilled or something, you're not going to get a lot of water going out this pipe, because once it drains below this level, clearly it's not going to seep any more water out of that pipe. But this is kind of like a leak valve is what they call it. And that, to me, besides the soldering, if I had to redo this, this would be the most challenging thing, I think. Besides making sure the gas doesn't have any leaks, making sure there's no leaks when I reconnect this, and making sure this leak valve is connected properly. To me, I would think that 10 years from now I could probably find, you know, a similar water heater, and hopefully would not have to adjust this, because the service guy, it took him a while to do this, and you kind of see right here the silver, that's the solder he used. So basically what he does is he takes this pipe right here, he roughs it up. He has this little, like, you know, hard wire tool that he roughs up the end of it. He scrapes it and roughs up the end of it. Then he gets this goo, flux glue, I believe, or something. Not really, it's a binding substance that he sticks it on the inside of this copper tube, and then the inside of this copper tube where they connect. He shoves this copper tube up into this one right here, and that flux glue helps bind it when it's warmed up. And then he uses the solder, the silver stuff, to reach around with a flame gun and melt that to seal it. Now, it's obviously, as you can imagine, it's real hard to reach around the side, the back here, and get that to seal. So that's really the only soldering he would have to do on the inside, except for he had a joint, an elbow right here. He had to do that. As again, he had to reach in there, and that's real hard to do. And do a joint and then run it straight out the wall. He had to drill a hole in the wall, and then he had to go straight down. So it required 2 elbows and about, 5 feet of copper tubing. Hoping again that I do not have to mess with that. But if I did, I think I could figure it out. It doesn't look that hard. It's just a matter of figuring the best way to run it out the wall. But they did even suggest that I could run it inside this unit. In other words, they're saying just go straight down and leave it a couple inches above ground level, because at best all this will ever do is drip. This is all that will ever come out of the pipe is like a drip. So he's suggesting that we could have run this on the inside of the house. We didn't have to run it outside, and it would just drip down. He would just run this pipe all the way down here, and then if it dripped, he said he had some sort of water indicator. He could install a water indicator. In other words, if water were to drip out of there, you can buy a separate unit that will warn you of water leakage. So that is a possibility if I had to do this myself. But obviously my goal would be to run it outside the house. So that's it. I believe I can do this myself next time. This isn't as hard as I had thought. They made it simpler. So over and out. Today is January 20th, 2013. Hopefully this sucker will last 10, 12, 15 years, but if it doesn't, I'm prepared to install it myself and save $1,000 bucks.